The biggest topic in cricket is the trajectory, the evolution, the fate of the most cherished form, Test cricket. Maybe we just go piece by piece before the overall. How concerned are you to see South Africa's board prioritise its domestic T20 competition over a Test series?
Yeah, look, I think that's been a wake-up call for everyone. I think the role of T20, as I mentioned earlier, bringing new big kids into the game, new people into the game, can't be underestimated. I think their T20 comp as compared to the Big Bash, we're in our 13th edition, they're in their second. There's quite a short comp. I think, for me, the belief that the two can coexist, and I think that this is if anything, this was a real scheduling, really suboptimal scheduling. And I think we in Australia, it's very clear that throughout the whole period of the Big Bash has been around, we've always prioritised international cricket, always prioritised Test cricket, and we will always do that. But I think this has shone a light, and certainly we'll be working with the ICC, working through scheduling groups to make sure those types of clashes don't manifest, and really champion the fact that people need to be prioritising international cricket.
That's South Africa. The West Indies squad scenario is no different. 7 uncapped players and their 15 coming here. Now, the cause is totally different. How concerned are you that a team that was weak in Test cricket has been, through various circumstances, weakened further and is very shortly due on our shores?
Yeah, I think the West Indies situation has been a bit longer in the making. I think if we step right back, if you speak to the vast majority of players, they all want to play Test cricket. If you speak to the coaching staff, Test cricket is where people really hone their craft. I think that the Mitch Starc example is a perfect case in point. He's commanded the highest IPL figure, having prioritised Test cricket over everything else for the last 3 years. Again, I think that it's incumbent on all of us to work together to get the scheduling right. And then to be supporting the other countries to be prioritising. I think the World Test Championship has been a really positive development, and teams do care about their position on the World Test Championship table and the points. So I think this West Indies side, it remains to be seen. I know that it remains to be seen how strong they are. They have got some younger talent coming out, and they'll be wanting to make a name for themselves. The question is how long we can keep people in the international game before they then go on to T20 competitions.
Is the FTP doing its job? So I guess we were just talking about South Africa and India is going to be crying out for a decider, but it's a 2-test series, and regrettably this has become such a trend as all you can squeeze in is 2 tests. Is there a need to reform the FTP to recognise the stresses at the moment?
Yeah, so I talked about the World Test Championship. I think, for me, the preference is at minimum 3 test series. So we'll keep advocating and championing that. So I do think there is work to be done on the FTP going forward, and it's really cementing the World Test Championship. Really advocating for 3 test series as an absolute minimum, and then as best as we possibly can, making sure that domestic T20 competitions, we minimise the overlap for those countries where it is a source of important source of revenue, but that every country is prioritising international and particularly Test cricket.
Do you think there's a future where fewer nations play Test cricket?
I think what we've seen over the last few years in Australia, and what we're seeing this summer is, and what we saw in the UK over the English summer, is that Test cricket is really thriving in certain countries, and in that sense, it is a bit of a two-speed economy. The challenges that we continue to support those countries that are struggling a little bit more in terms of Test cricket. But the other piece is, we saw the Netherlands as an example, been doing really well in a 10-team ODI World Cup. It's actually supporting all cricketing countries to grow and give further opportunities more broadly. So when you cast your mind forward, I think Test cricket is the ultimate, and you really want to see as many countries challenging as possible.
So you could I could paint you a picture where, so cricket is in rude health the way that it's growing, and I could see a world where there's a T20 World Cup with 32 nations playing, but I can't see a world where the same number of Test nations are playing. I'm just not. And in the middle will be the World Cup, which was delightful for the progress of Afghanistan and for the Netherlands. I just wonder, you rightly point out the two-speed economy. Australia, England and India are going to be the bastions of Test cricket. But what are your responsibilities to try to keep other nations, or to bring them up to speed where they seem to have lagged?
I think all the member nations together have a collective responsibility. And I think it's about context. I think it's about leading by example. I think it is continuing to prioritise the World Test Championship, and realise that it is a balancing act. And I think we should be celebrating. I think you're absolutely right that Test cricket here in those countries is in absolutely rude health. I've been, as I said, thrilled by the numbers of families that have come in. Absolutely thrilled with the crowds, thrilled with the television audiences. So there's a little bit around supporting, but there's also a bit which is actually, for players around the world aspiring to be testing themselves in the ultimate, and the Pakistan team have said that this is their ultimate. So I think Bangladesh are a really strong emerging nation, and ultimately it is a balance. There's never been more opportunities for players. There's never been more investment in cricket. There's never been more people around the world watching cricket. So it continues to be a really fine balancing act.
So do you feel confident that in however many years' time, Pakistan will again be on a test tour of Australia?
Very confident. I think we're not due to play them again in test series. They're out here next year for white ball, 3 T20s, 3 ODIs. But certainly within the next 8 years, we'll look to play them again.
So I was wondering, we're about to see the next 2 summers are going to be bonanzas. I wonder if we'll get to the end of those summers and go, why would we have a summer without one of those 2 nations here when that's the premium product and when that's what everybody wants to see? I wonder if we'll flip the question in future and say, why aren't we playing India and England as the premium products all the time?
Well, we're fortunate that England and India are coming out, whether it's for white ball or test series, more frequently than they have. So that is part of the thinking. But we want to see everybody strong. There were people that suggested that this was going to be a weaker summer, but we've had record crowds in Perth, had a huge turnout in Melbourne, and this has just been the most wonderful event. So, I think it just goes. Test cricket is really, really strong in Australia, and these players want to play in Australia against the best team in the world. So, I think that it's about keeping the whole of all cricketing countries strong, and really supporting new and emerging cricketing countries. And I think the US is massively exciting to have the kind of the triple momentum of T20 World Cup, the launch of Major League Cricket, and now cricket in the LA 28 Olympic Games. I think cricket is arguably one of, if not the fastest growing team sport in the world. So
we do cherish Test cricket as the primary form of the game. There's no question. I believe every word you say on that front. Is it a truth internationally, or do you think it's just a... So I read South Africa's Cricket Board statement where they spoke about Test cricket, and their actions are exactly the opposite for whatever reasons. Is that truly held around the world, that Test cricket is still the form by enough administrators, visionaries and countries?
I believe it is. I think it is. The challenge is the economics. And so... I think there are parts of the world where the revenue from a T20, an ODI, and a Test match are the same, yet the cost of putting on a Test match is significantly higher. So, ultimately, I believe that the cricket fan will determine, what they want to see. And the cricket fans in Australia are voting with their feet that they want to see Test cricket. And they're also voting with their feet that they want to see Big Bash, and that's the beauty of cricket. So, but I think universally amongst players, coaches and administrators, there is a recognition that the purest form of the game is Test cricket. The ultimate test is Test cricket, and the format in which players build their skills to be successful in other formats is Test cricket.
Yep.